These are the events that transformed South Korea from a nation with zero tanks to one of the world's leading tank exporters, now competing directly against the United States in global markets. This is the story of how South Korea stopped trusting American tanks. In 1950, when North Korean forces poured across the 38th parallel, South Korea had no tanks whatsoever. The newly formed South Korean army relied on just a handful of armored vehicles and virtually no heavy weaponry. American forces quickly supplied medium battle tanks, beginning with the M4A3E8 Sherman variants and later the M47 and M48 Patton series tanks. For 2 decades, South Korea's armored forces were entirely American-built, American-maintained, and American-controlled. Everything changed in the early 1970s when South Korean intelligence received a shocking report. North Korea was not just importing Soviet tanks anymore, it was manufacturing T-62 main battle tanks locally. Meanwhile, President Nixon's new doctrine was pulling United States troops out of Asia. From 1969 to 1971, United States military personnel in Asia dropped from 727,000 to 284,000. In South Korea specifically, troop levels fell from 63,000 to 43,000. By June 1971, 20,000 out of 61,000 United States soldiers had withdrawn. South Korean President Park Chung Hee saw this withdrawal as abandonment. He told his aide Kim Seong-jin that it was a message to the Korean people that America would not rescue them if North Korea invaded again. Faced with technologically superior North Korean T-62 tanks and declining United States protection, South Korea desperately needed better tanks. They approached the United States for M60A1 Patton tanks, but the Americans refused. Even if the United States had agreed, there would not have been enough M60A1 tanks to give South Korean forces a significant advantage over North Korean armor. This refusal sparked a remarkable transformation. Park Chung Hee personally summoned Chung Ju-young, the founder of Hyundai Group, and ordered him to build a tank factory. In a moment that became legendary, Chung misunderstood and thought the president was asking for a train factory. He confidently promised to build one, only to learn about his mistake when the president's secretary clarified the misunderstanding as he was leaving the building. Despite this confusion, Hyundai would eventually become the cornerstone of South Korea's tank industry. On July 6, 1978, South Korea signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Chrysler Defense to develop what would become the K-1 tank. The executive contract followed on December 1st. This was not technology transfer in the traditional sense, it was more like licensing American designs for local production. From October 1980 to April 1981, Chrysler held meetings with Hyundai to confirm operational requirements. The K-1, later nicknamed the Monster Tank by North Korean soldiers, entered production in July 1987 at Hyundai's Changwon factory. But here's where the problems began. The K-1 was still fundamentally an American design under American control. South Korea discovered that exporting the K-1 required authorization from the United States, and they had to pay royalties to Chrysler Defense. 44 designated parts could not be changed without United States approval, later reduced to 14, and some components had to be purchased directly from American suppliers. Most importantly, American teams installed the special armor package in complete secrecy, preventing Korean engineers from accessing it to protect United States intellectual property. The defense sector viewed the K-1 as a humiliation because the tank proved that South Korea lacked indigenous tank developing technology. More practically, these restrictions meant South Korea could not truly compete in global markets. Every potential export required American approval, and competitors could easily undercut them by going directly to American suppliers. The solution began in 1995 with initial research into what would become the K-2 Black Panther. South Korean developers invited international experts for a 40-hour seminar, including Sven Berge from Sweden's Stridsvagn 103, Philip Lett from the M1 Abrams program, Israel Tal from the Merkava program, Hayashi Iwao from Japan's Type 90, and Richard Ogorkiewicz, a European tank expert. This wasn't about copying foreign designs anymore, it was about learning from the best minds to create something entirely Korean. The K-2 development faced significant challenges. In 1996, South Korea acquired Russian T-80U tanks and studied their composite armor and explosive reactive armor technology. They originally planned to license chrome plating technology for tank guns from Switzerland, but when the Swiss firm refused, Korean engineers developed their own method. In a stroke of fortune, they discovered an improved classified technique while reworking defective chrome-plated guns. Full-scale development began in June 2003, leading to the public unveiling of the XK2 prototype on March 2, 2007. Originally planned for deployment by 2011, power pack development delays, particularly with the Korean-made engine and transmission, pushed initial deployment to July 2014. The first 6 K2 Black Panthers finally entered service on June 29, 2014. The numbers tell the story of South Korea's transformation. The K1 prototype cost South Korea $60 million, far below the $700 million spent on the M1 Abrams. The K2 development budget exceeded $230 million, but this represented complete technological independence. Today, the ROK Army operates 2,872 tanks, including 1,524 K1 and K1A1 variants, produced by Hyundai Rotem between 1986 and 2011. The K2's specifications demonstrate South Korea's technological leap. While the K1 required a 4-person crew like American tanks, the K2 uses an autoloader and operates with just 3 crew members. It weighs 55 tons compared to the M1A2 Abrams at 63 to 73 tons, making it faster and more maneuverable. The K2 features a 120mm L55 main gun, compared to the Abrams L44 variant, and includes active protection systems as standard equipment. The real vindication came in export markets. In 2022, Warsaw and Seoul signed a $22 billion arms package, with Poland ordering 1,000 K2 tanks. This deal, potentially exceeding $15 billion for all batches, became one of the largest armored vehicle export contracts in history. Polish General Gromadzynski explained the selection, saying that Abrams tanks had trouble moving in Polish terrain, particularly in late winter and early spring. Abrams tanks can't handle it. However, the K2 is a very good platform that is adapted to such terrain. The Poland deal represents everything South Korea could not do with the K1. No American approval required, no royalty payments, complete control over technology transfer and local production. The broader implications extend beyond tanks. As one Polish official noted, the Korean deal meant getting advanced weapon systems much faster than German suppliers could deliver and at competitive prices. South Korea's arms exports exploded, growing from an annual average of $3 billion between 2012 and 2021 to $17.3 billion in 2022. While exports fell to $9.5 billion in 2024, Poland remained the top buyer, accounting for 46% of South Korean arms exports. As of July 2025, Hyundai Rotem's K2 production line operates at full capacity, producing more than 10 tanks per month, with all production allocated to the Polish contract. This success has created new challenges. The current allocation of all production resources to Poland may delay deliveries to the South Korean Army. The 150 K2 PIP tanks ordered in May 2023 were expected through 2028, but with Hyundai Rotem prioritizing exports, domestic deliveries could be postponed. Yet this represents the ultimate validation of South Korea's strategy. Currently ranked 10th globally in arms sales, South Korea has achieved almost 70% domestic sourcing for defense equipment. President Lee recently declared that becoming one of the top 4 powerhouses in the defense industry is by no means an impossible dream. From a nation with 0 tanks in 1950 to a global competitor challenging American supremacy in armor exports by 2025, South Korea's journey illustrates how technological independence transforms military relationships. They did not stop trusting American tanks because the tanks were bad. They stopped trusting the strings attached to them.